Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome you to yet another wonderful program of the Economic Briefcase. You can follow us, on Topstar, on GoTV. You can also watch us on our Facebook, on our Facebook channel, the Camnet TV channel page. You can also watch us on YouTube, and we are now live in more than 70 countries across the globe, and technically live in all countries where there's internet. Today, I'm your host, Luwinda Wazoka, with my co-host, Mr. Noah Njapao. Good evening.
Good evening, Doc. Good evening.
How has been the week?
The week has been good. I don't know about you.
Well, the week, it's been busy, but we're pulling through. We fight ignorance, and both in the classroom and
outside the classroom.
Outside the classroom, trying to ensure that we move above the food chain. That's basically the purpose of any human being. Is to climb above the food chain. The higher you go, the cooler it becomes. So, ladies and gentlemen, today we have a wonderful guest for you, a very seasoned agronomist. You can call him an agriculture economics, an agriculture economist. Let us just call him an agronomist. Not only is he an agronomist, he's also a writer, author of, an author. And I know they say if you want to hide it from an African, put it in a book. Let's hope that you viewers are going to read a lot. The more you read, the more information that you have. The more information you have, the easier it is for you to get by and to, to be able to see opportunities. Today, we are going to discuss agribusiness and the economic benefits of value addition to agriculture, products. Before we go into the program, I would like to, to announce that this week we are mourning a person who's one of us, former Finance Minister, Honorable Alexander Chikwanda. One of the most, gallant soldiers of this land, appointed as minister at a very young age, served both in the UNIP government and in the Patriotic Front government. It was so much important to Zambia's economic development agenda that His Excellency President Hakainde Hichilema has declared, 7th of May as a day of national mourning. On that note, we pick it up, and as per tradition, we give you information on what is cooking on the international commodity market. Pass it over to our figures person, Mr. Noah Njapao. Mr. Noah, over to you.
Okay, so the market update as of today, 5th of May, 2022. The quarter against major currencies. So the quarter is trading against the dollar at 17 kwacha, 3 ngwe, against the pound at 21 kwacha, 3 ngwe, the euro, 17 kwacha, 92 ngwe, the rand, 1 kwacha, 18 ngwe. Selected metal prices delayed by day on the LME. Copper is trading at $9,462.50. Then aluminium closed off selling at $2,934. Zinc closed off selling at $3,878.50. Lead closed off selling at $2,272.50. Tin closed off selling at $40,500. Nickel closed off selling at $30,015. The crude oil prices, WTI crude closed off selling at $108. Brent crude closed off selling at $110.07. Then, because we're discussing agribusiness and the benefits of value addition to agricultural product, we decided to add another slide for grain prices. So soybeans, 1 kg, is selling at an average of 6 kwacha. Sunflower grain, that should be 1 kg, not 5 kg. That should be 1 kg, roughly at an average of 4.5 kwacha. Groundnuts, that's a MWENDA, 20 kwacha. Maize per kg, 4.5. 4 kwacha, 15 ngwe. Beans, MWENDA, that's 100 kwacha on average. That's all we had for you today for the market update.
So you can see, the dynamics. I think that the last time I was, growing something, soybeans should have been at 1 kwacha 20 ngwe, 2 kwacha somewhere there. Now it's around 6 kwacha. Also maize prices are also moving up high. I think we need to create, capacity to, to be able to grow enough for the domestic market and to be able to export, but to export in such a way that we do not make our, domestic market vulnerable, to, business people that are trying to make, huge profits
at the
international markets.
And that leads to the citizens paying a higher price when it comes to food shortages, isn't it?
Exactly. So today's guest, as I've already mentioned, is a distinguished agronomist. This is a person that knows a lot about about agribusiness, agriculture sector in particular. And to you, viewers, agriculture is the future of the country. We have so much rains. It rains all the time. We see water dripping into the soil. We don't use it. Rivers flowing, all of them, some into the Luangwa River, some into Luapula, and some into the Zambezi River, and all these lead both into the Indian Ocean and the Atlantic Ocean, and we don't use them. We have a lot of land that is lying idle. So if you want to get rich, one of the most richest people in Zambia are those that are in agri-business. It's not a walkover. It's something that you need to engage in and just do. But believe you me, whether it rains or it's very cold or it's what, people are going to eat. And
agribusiness is quite broad. So not only on farming necessarily, it starts from farming. There's assembly, processing, distribution. Quite a broad sector.
Our guest today is Mr. ERICK MWENDA, and some of you know him, some of you don't. And as per tradition, we are going to ask the question, who is ERICK MWENDA?
Interesting. Thank you very much. It's always a very difficult question to answer who someone is. But ERICK MWENDA, comes from Senanga in Western Province. And of course, I had a privilege to do, of course, my primary in Western Province and also did my secondary school there. And of course, I also did my agriculture from different types of colleges and universities. But I think what is key is that ERICK MWENDA is very passionate about agriculture. And of course, with more experience, of course, in the horticulture sector. This is maybe in simple language, I can simply say the garden, people that are getting into gardening, people that are growing different types of crops in the range of, bananas, oranges, and of course, various types of vegetables, tomato, cabbage, rape, and the rest. And I think one key thing that has made me to be where I am today is because I had, let me use the word excessive passion into agriculture. And I think I've worked in different sectors in this industry, from multinational companies that I've worked, of course, looking after different countries in Africa, especially the southern region, and of course the eastern part of Africa. And apart from that, currently, I wouldn't want to get into a lot of details because of time issue, but currently I'm the head of vegetable business for Seedco Zambia, and of course looking after Zambia, DRC, and Angola. So in a nutshell, this is Eric Mwenda, and of course I've written a book which is called Be a Farmer, Be a Millionaire, introducing a lot of people into agriculture, and of course looking at it at the positive side of things, and also them knowing that it's a journey. It's not a one thing, you know, it's not something that you just wake up and get into farming. It's a process. And I think with that being said, I want to say that I'm very thankful and very much appreciate to be here today. And of course, even the beginning of Camnet, I think way back in 2016, I had a chat with our man here, Mr. Chiluba himself. I think we had a discussion, telling me about this vision, and today we are here and we're talking about agriculture. Very much thankful. Thank you so much.
Pastor Chiluba is, very much passionate about, agriculture and, trying to transform the mindset of Zambians to ensure that, they engage in agribusiness. Just here at the studios, of course, this is also a church.
Okay.
You'll find a lot of, avocados growing.
Okay.
So his target is to do 45,000 trees of avocado, and this is an investment. You know better than me. When you plant an avocado tree, it is going to go for over 10 years, 20 years.
Several years.
It's just just giving you the produce. So instead of even building a house, for example, the tree itself is that source of income. Avocados are very expensive, and the export market is, it's quite huge. It's not me to talk about that. That's why we have you here.
No problem.
Before Mr. Noah takes over,
okay,
what is agribusiness?
First of all, I would want to mention that agribusiness is a system of, we've got different levels of agribusiness. This is where, somebody's engaged in agriculture of different kinds. Of course, we've got different levels. We've got the animal side of business. We've got the crop side of business. We've got also the services side of business. And of course, we've got also the value addition, where we are talking about, something that is producing from the primary production to where you actually make it into something that adds value to it. For example, from a raw tomato into a tomato paste. So you're actually producing a product from just a raw material into something. So basically, this is a science or a business that actually turns something into an economic activity that changes someone's life from this stage to the next stage.
When you look at agribusiness, you have told us the animal side and the plant side. Maybe let's start with the plant side. The viewer out there who's watching, they are very interested. I hope you have your notepads and pens to be able to jot down. What currently in Zambia are people engaging in from the crop side?
Thank you so much, sir. And I think it's very important for people to get this information very correctly, because I think it is the one that is trending, so to say. So currently we've got different farmers doing different things in terms of the plant side of things. We've got a good number of farmers that are growing maize. We've got a good number of farmers that are growing soybeans, and I think this last season we had a lot of noise on soybeans. I think this is actually it's a market that I can simply say it's a market that we would want as many farmers as possible to get into it, because the globally things are changing. I think we've seen a lot of changes in the global trends, where there's been a serious demand of soybeans. I think in China they're actually looking for tons and tons of soybeans, and our neighbors in Tanzania, they actually managed to get a contract to actually supply Asia, China to be specific. And that way we have seen some farmers actually coming all the way from Tanzania, coming to Zambia to look for soybeans, because you know, this is where they actually think or actually envision themselves that they'll be able to get this particular commodity in this particular country. And that being said, when I look at the price of 6 kwacha, I'm actually saying that maybe it's an underestimation currently, but because we're actually saying that, you know, previously, you know, I would say the last season that has ended, the price even went up to 12 kwacha, 13 kwacha a kg of soybeans.
Wow. So
what that means is that, you know, I'll just give you a bit of detail in terms of soybeans right now. If a farmer, for example, plants 1 hectare of soybeans, is actually going to get about 3 tons. So what we mean there is that if you're talking about, you know, getting about 80 bags by 50 kgs, which is about 4 tons as a maximum. Sometimes some of them even go up to 100 bags by 50 kgs, which is 5 tons. So if someone is engaged in this particular business, what we're actually saying is that, you know, you are able to actually make an income out of it. When you look at the cost of production and you look at the selling price, at the end of the day, you're actually seeing that you are making some good amount of money. But now the problem that is there with the majority of our farmers, what is happening is that they just hear it as like someone ringing a bell to say something is happening this side. So everyone else just wakes up and they start growing, you know, soybeans. But the fact of the matter is that they need to get the full information from us, the technocrats, so that they are able to know the variety type. Of course, soybeans has got a timetable at which is the right time to grow it. So they have to get the right information on when to grow it. They have to get the right information on the variety that can actually grow in different ecological zones in the country. And apart from that, they also need to have the right information about the markets. Where are they going to sell this particular product, and at what price are they going to sell this particular product? So when they start talking to us, we'll be able to guide them on that particular aspect. And of course, they also have to go out there and ask the industry. You know, when we're talking about the industry, we're also talking about the off-takers of the particular product that we're talking about. We're talking about the millers, you know, that are actually scattered across the country. We're also talking about the export market in different areas. So these are all the areas where we are saying the farmers need to have the right information for them to actually make the right decision, even on how many hectares they're going to grow and what quantity they're going to supply to that particular market. So soybeans is the way to go for now, because the prices keep going up. With the challenges that are happening right now, with the issues of Ukraine and Russia, the war that is happening that side, we have seen a very sharp increase in terms of fertilizer prices. Right now, a bag of fertilizer in Zambia is going somewhere around 1,100 kwacha for a 50 kg, which was costing 600 kwacha previous season. So we're actually seeing that the prices have gone up. And now, what is the message to our farmers? The message to our farmers is that they need to utilize what is called GAP, good agricultural practices, for them to get value from what they are putting into the ground. So the most important thing is that if they get the right variety for the right climate, and also knowing the prices and everything else that is involved, it means that they will get into soybean growing with the right mindset. And apart from that, they'll be able to get the motivation that they are doing the right thing. Then apart from that, maybe I would also get to, you know, we've seen a lot of farmers getting into tomato production. Of course, people call me Mr. Tomato. Very interesting.
You need to be my friend, because you know I tried soybeans. Okay. I tried tomatoes. Okay. I felt where now I was hit by tuta.
Oh, tuta absoluta.
Yes, tuta absoluta. Wow. So and then on the soybeans part. I was not living on the farm, so I could 2 weeks I don't go there. So I think you know, the inoculators and you know those things. Yes. I think maybe my workers were not doing the right thing. Maybe I would bring and then they are not delivering and what. So we are going to discuss first good farming practices. Yeah? Okay. We are going to also help you viewers to understand what you really need to do to ensure that you get the value for the money that you are investing in the agriculture sector.
That's very true.
Actually, that's a challenge that most people encounter. You know, a lot of people want to go into agriculture, but once they go into agriculture, maybe they make a loss, or they encounter the same issues that the doc encountered, and they just abandon it. Just that. Now, what would be your advice to those people? Because a lot of people want to get into agriculture because of actually the same good numbers that you've been mentioning right now, and the readily market out there of these products. So for those who want to get into agriculture, what would be your advice? Because a lot of people want to get into agriculture.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Doc, and thank you, Mr. Njapao. I think what is more key is that most people need to understand that agriculture is a business, like we have mentioned, agribusiness. So every business has got its own Bible, which have to be followed religiously. So what that means is that when you get information that you are able to make money in this particular crop, the next thing that you need to do is to acquire knowledge. What are you supposed to do for you to get what you're supposed to do? Some people will go through the process of even getting the knowledge. They'll have the resources. Of course, like you, Doc, you had the money at some point, and probably you had some basic knowledge of how you can go about it. But then the actual thing, again, which also troubles a lot of farmers is when production takes place, there's what we are, like the issue I was talking about, good agricultural practices, where you actually need to follow certain things. So first thing that you need to follow is that, of course, I would want to just begin from the word go. First thing is your mindset. Are you very much ready to get into this? What kind of mindset are you supposed to have? A farmer must have, he needs to have the passion to do it, because if your primary reason is just to make money, you'll fail. Because when the money does not come in the first season, you just say, no, this thing has failed. And the majority of them have actually, gotten out of agriculture, but agribusiness, so to say. But the next thing, someone is making a lot of money out of it. So the key thing is that the mindset must be right. And then the second thing is that the passion must be there, because there are ups and downs in the process. And then, of course, acquiring knowledge to ensure that you get the right information and you know the right questions to ask the right people, which they also guide you through the whole process. And an agriculturist a farmer or a grower should also have a mentor. You just get confused. When they pick one particular answer they have gotten and they begin farming, the next thing they'll just say, so this thing doesn't work. And of course, sometimes they'll see it working at some point. For example, when you're growing tomatoes, maybe at some point it is doing very, very well in the first month. Second month, there's total absolute. You don't even know what to do. The next thing you hear is that, no, someone on this WhatsApp group on Facebook said use this chemical. And the next thing you do is to go and buy the same chemical that somebody recommended on Facebook.
Is it copper something?
No, they would say copper oxchloride, which is not the case. Copper is actually a fungicide and a bactericide to control bacterial diseases. So with Tuta Absoluta right now, I think I need to give information. With Tuta Absoluta, you need to use the right chemical. And that right chemical, there are different companies where you can actually get this, but I'll just mention the active ingredient for that particular product. One particular product which is very, very good for Tuta Absoluta, it should have a product which is called emamectin benzoate. So as an active ingredient, emamectin benzoate does very well. And also another one which has got imidacloprid, that also will do very well to control Tuta Absoluta. And another one which is also very, very key is called catap hydroxide. Catap hydroxide, that's also another active ingredient that can also work when you're controlling Tuta. And of course, there are different brands on the market, but it's important for farmer to just get those active ingredients I've mentioned. But of course, this is something that we can do on one-to-one.
Ladies and gentlemen, you can participate in this program by sending us messages on the numbers that are below the screen there. And you can also call us. We are going to be opening the phone lines very soon. You can call in. This information we are discussing today is very interesting. Very soon we shall start charging you.
No, I actually have a very interesting. I had a very interesting conversation with my brother-in-law. I think yesterday. He grew watermelons. So
interesting.
At some there's a point when pollution is supposed to take place. So at that point, I think he had sprayed some chemical. Right. So there were no bees or whatever it is that could now perform the cross-pollination. So what he said he did was he got earbuds and personally started
like transferring
pollen and he said that actually saved the crop. So speaking of getting advice from WhatsApp and
let's move systematically. Let's start with soybeans, then we'll move to tomato. We shall approach this program and we're going to be selling this information.
Interesting.
Information to the church.
All right. Interesting.
So soybeans, you mentioned. Let's start hectare. 1 hectare. Yes. How much resources do you need? Maybe seed, fertilizers, and how much do you get from that? And at the current prices, how much profit can one person make?
All right, so talking about soybeans, first of all, soybeans is very weather sensitive. What I mean is that there's always a window in which you should plant it. So usually, you know, due to climate change, so that timing always changes. But it's important to also know that when a farmer has received sufficient moisture for a given period of time, because you need the sufficient moisture to support the initial establishment of your soybeans in the ground. So the most important thing there is that you need to know exactly when you can have that sufficient moisture. But you can only know that, first of all, if your ear is on the ground, to ensure that you are getting the weather updates. And apart from that, you have the other information in terms of the actual products that you are going to use. So I'm going to explain this just briefly, step by step. So the weather aspect is very important. You need to know exactly when you are going to receive sufficient amount of rainfall or moisture on the ground. Then apart from that, there's that window I was talking about in terms of sunlight, because soybeans is sunlight, it's sun sensitive, or it's very important. Let me just use the simple language so that people should understand. So you need to have sufficient sunlight, so which usually comes from November 15th up to about December 15th. So you have that 1 month of November 15th to December 15th. So in that particular 1 month, that's a very right period where you are supposed to put your seed on the ground. So in terms of the season, the window of growing, that's the particular season. But of course, if anything happens in terms of changes, you can always be advised. Sometimes it may go up to month end of November or maybe early December, depending on where the farmer is and the amount of rainfall they have received. Then the second part they also need to know is the type of variety that you need to grow. You know, at Seedco, you know, they have different varieties that will go from this particular area and that particular area. There's a variety which is called Spike and Safari. So we have, you know, agronomists that can actually guide the farmer to say, for this particular area, go for this particular variety and go for that particular variety. But of course, what is also key is that when you get the right variety for the right place, the next thing that you need to do is to start getting the necessary inputs. You can only get the necessary inputs if you've got a budget. How much is it going to cost me? And then you look at the budget. So in terms of the inputs required for soybeans production, of course you need your seed, it must be there. You also need an inoculant. This is a very important product in the soybean production. And then apart from that, you also need the fertilizer to just establish the crop. With soybeans, you don't need top dressing because it fixes its own nitrogen. So that in itself is something that the farmer should actually know. Then apart from that, when you've acquired this, but you've got your budget, then you know the actual cost it's going to cost you, then of course you'll be advised to say, with this year, we are expecting your price to be somewhere around 6 kwacha, 7 kwacha, 10 kwacha, just like that. So it's very, very important for the farmer to know that about the prices as well. And then later on, after that is known, then you go to your soil itself. So in terms of soil, there's what is called soil testing. I think majority of farmers, I think we've heard a lot of farmers just applying lime. No, just apply lime, just apply lime. But why should you apply lime? The key thing there is to know the nutrient status of your soil. So when the soil is tested, you'll be able to know what is called NPK, nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. These are the major elements that are found in the soil. And you are also going to measure what is called the pH, potential of hydrogens in that particular soil. But we are talking about the acidity levels in the soil. So to simplify that, what we are saying is that I like giving an example of the pH status of the soil. If your soil, if the acidity level is very high, what usually happens is that the majority of the nutrients, the NPK that we're talking about, which are supposed to support the particular crop, will not be available to the plant. For example, this is your crop, and you have your acidity level which is very high. So nutrients are supposed to be around this particular area. But when your acidity level is very high, what will happen is that which acidity level is measured by a pH. So if you get somewhere around 3.5, 4.5, it means the acidity level is very high. So in that aspect, but the majority of the nutrients are going to run away. They won't be available to the plant. And what that means is that even if you have the right fertilizers applied at the right time with the right dosage, as long as your pH is not correct, then the crop will not do very well. So it's also very important for a farmer to know that status of their soil, and then a correction plan will be done where you'll be guided to say, with this particular soil, precisely you are supposed to put in a product that should correct the acidity level in the soil, which is called lime. So you get your lime and apply the lime to correct that acidity levels, so that it brings to a level where the soil and the plants are going to accept, and that level is between 5.5 to 6.5. It actually shows very clearly on that report. Of course, this is the part where, as agronomists, we come in and provide that report and guide the farmer to say, with this particular production and your soil report, you need so much quantities of lime to correct the acidity levels, so that the acidity levels can come to a level where these nutrients will be available. So you have done with the soil aspect, and then also it will even guide you the basal dressing fertilizer to apply. The basal dressing fertilizer is actually the first fertilizer that you apply to your soybean plant as it starts as you are establishing it. So it's the only fertilizer that you're going to apply, and it only comes once. Later on, you're not going to apply any fertilizers. But the other thing again is to have the right inoculant. There's rhizobium as an ingredient that is found in that inoculum. It's also a very good product, but we've got different traits of that rhizobium inoculant. So when you go to companies, they'll be able to advise you to say, with this particular season that we are in, then you need this type of inoculant that you need to apply, so that you're going to apply together with your soybeans at planting time. And then there's also a process at which you are supposed to apply, to mix the inoculant together with the soybeans. One of the key things that a farmer should know is that the inoculant is a living organism. So when you get your inoculant and mix your soybeans in day sunlight, in an open area where there's sunlight, the amount of heat unit that will come there will actually affect the living organism in that inoculant. So what will happen is that you could have used the right inoculant, trying to mix it with the right seed, but then because you were applying it in an open area where there was too much heat, it means that inoculant has died. And when you put in your soybean in the ground, because the inoculant is supposed to actually fix the atmospheric nitrogen, so it goes into there and help the plant to actually establish itself and grow properly. But when the inoculant has died because of the heat unit, then it means that that particular operation is dead. Just from there, the farmer loses almost 20% just from that operation, because you did not do the right thing. So you lose 20% from there, even before you start putting your crop on the ground. So already you have lost your yield. Then the next thing is, how do you prepare your land? Your land must be prepared in such a way that you break the clods. You do your plowing. You can actually use a tractor. You can use an ox-drawn plow and all those things. Sometimes certain people have even done reaping. So, but the most important thing is that you are going to disturb the soil a bit, so that you make the soil become soft enough, where you get what is called a fine tilthy. So when the soil is soft enough, it means that it's able to accommodate the seed into the ground. So that particular soil, again, it has to be done in such a way that you don't have blocks of soil here and there. When you have a block of soil in the ground and you put your seed just under a block of soil, what that means is that sometimes the block of soil may be on top, or maybe down there you did not break the hard pan. So what is going to happen is that on the hard pan, the root is not going to penetrate. So the seed just dies, just have to put it into the ground. Then the next thing is that hard pan which is there. So with the hard pan, how is it going to happen that when the seed is coming out from the ground, it finds the hard pan there? Then again, when it reaches there, it's very hard, it can't go. And then there again, the seed dies off. So farmers usually lose out their yields because of having wrong practices. So the land preparation has been done in such a way that it's soft enough, it's going to accommodate the plant, and the plant is able to penetrate very well and establish its roots very well and get all the necessary nutrients from the ground. Then thereafter, when the land preparation is done properly, that's when now you start thinking of planting. And the planting time, you have to make sure that you are planting on the right moisture. I mentioned about enough
between the 15th of November
and the 15th of December.
Yes.
That's actually the period.
Yeah, I'm recording.
Thank you so much. So between that particular period, that's why you need to do your planting, and you make sure that by that time you have sufficient moisture on the ground when you're putting your seed on the ground. Then in terms of days to maturity, we always count to say, okay, this variety will take about 100 days, this variety will take 102 days, this variety will take 120 days. So it's within that particular period that certain things have to be observed. There's a time of putting the seed on the ground. Then later on, sometimes it may take a week, or within 1 week, you're supposed to apply your basal dressing fertilizer. Then later on, when the crop starts growing, it will reach a certain stage where you need to start boosting it. So boosters, this can actually, you can actually encourage the vegetative growth. So where you want to see your crop actually coming out very, very well, you can do some boosters to make sure that you apply the NPK fertilizers, which can come in liquid form as foliar fet. So you can spray on them to encourage the vegetative growth. It also depends on how the crop is growing. Sometimes that operation may be left out, but it also depends on how the crop is growing. This is the reason why
it should be green.
It should be green. This is the reason why a farmer must watch his field, her field or his field, time and again to ensure that they are observing the way the crop is growing. Then later on, there's time of flowering. At time of flowering, it's also important that if your flowering is not very, very good, you can also introduce what is called the fruit and flower as a booster to have more flowers, because when you have more flowers, it means those are the flowers that are going to turn into the grain, the soybean that you're looking for, the pod that you're looking for. And then of course again, it also depends on the inherent potential of that variety. Most of the varieties in Zambia will give you about 4 tons a hectare, 3 tons a hectare, 5 to 6 tons a hectare. Of course, some varieties even go up to 7 tons a hectare. So 7 tons a hectare is a very, very good yield that a farmer will be able to get from just 1 hectare of a field. But then the most important thing is that these processes have to be followed very well. So you have your flowering stage, and then later on you also have now the pod formation period. So that pod formation period, you need to make sure that you also have sufficient moisture and rain, so that and by the time you get that level, you'll be somewhere around end of January getting into February. So you find that you still have enough heat to support the growth of the soybeans, and apart from that, you're also going to have a situation where most of your soybeans now start giving you the pods. And by the time it's getting into March, you start seeing that the pod formation is almost getting complete. You have most of the pods being formed. But the key thing there is that if you don't have enough moisture, for example, maybe you had planted a bit early, or maybe quite late, you find that when the rain stop, that's when your pods start forming. And when the rain stop and your pods start forming, it means that you have already lost your yield just there. This is the reason why we need to follow that timing, so that you have sufficient moisture and rain to support it, and then you get your yield from your soybeans. And then looking at prices, I think it's also important for the farmers to know that last year we had some companies buying at 13 kwacha a kilo of soybeans. They're also buying at 12 kwacha a kilo of soybeans. We had one farmer who is a grower from Sidco. He did quite well in Mkonchi, Kabwe, Central Province of Zambia, where he actually got 1,000 bags by 50 kgs. And by that time, he was actually selling at 600 kwacha a bag, which was about 12 kwacha per kg. 600 kwacha a bag times 1,000 bags of soybeans that he got. He barely made 600,000 kwacha. This is just a rural, small-scale farmer right there in the village. This is the amount of potential, amount of money that a farmer would get, and this is the potential.
1,000 bags should be how many kgs, roughly?
1,000 bags by 50 kgs.
Yes.
50 kgs.
That's about 200. Mathematics.
6,000 bags.
1,000 bags.
1,000
That
bags.
is 50 kgs.
Yes, so that's.
So you put the zeros to the 50.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that's about.
About 500,000.
Yeah, 500,000.
So what it is there? Sorry. So what I'm trying to say,
in terms of hectareage, it's one.
You can actually, I like being practical. You can get a phone and just do the calculations.
So in terms of hectareage, it's going around 10, somewhere there.
If on average you are getting about 100 bags a hectare.
A hectare.
Mm-hmm.
So 1,000 bags.
So 1,000 bags is about 10 hectares.
10 hectares, yes.
So you're right. So about 10 hectares.
600,000.
600,000.
And
this
how
is
much?
just a small scale farm.
And how much is the input in
So
that?
usually so usually the input cost will range, because the fertilizer prices have gone up,
yes.
and they keep on going up because of the exchange rate and all that. But somewhere around 10,000, 12,000 kwacha as your input cost in per hectare on soybeans is very possible.
Okay, let's just get 20,000.
So even if you put at 20,000 per hectare,
200,000, your profit is 400,000.
400,000. Yes.
Wow.
What are you doing in Kalingalinga, colleagues? What are you doing in Kablonga.
Yes.
Just seated.
Yes.
There's so much land.
Yes.
All of us have a village.
Yes.
There's water.
Yes.
There's land.
Yes.
You have a chief who just say, get here,
Yes.
give me 5,000 kwacha or write you a recommendation.
Yes.
Then why should we sit like this and say we are broke?
We are broke.
Let's move to tomato.
Thank you, sir. No, so yeah, tomato, very interesting crop.
I love tomato because
Yes.
somebody from Kanchilia is writing us, director, hold your fire. I like tomato because you can eat it. Yes, with Fukushima and what. And it has a risk. Soybeans has a risk, yes, at harvest, but you can see that somebody is harvesting my crop.
Yes, yes.
But with tomato, people can, because tomato will give you every day.
Yes, 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 yes.
New one. So there's a risk that if you are not there, your worker is going to be doing what? Is going to be getting it. So here, colleagues, before the expert moves in, you need to ensure you are present. In the beginning, you need to ensure, you need to understand the behavior of tomato.
That's very
Otherwise, you are going to be going there after 3 days. They know you only come on Fridays. They will harvest on Monday. They come and harvest on Wednesday. Then when you come, that has, they have made Thursday, Friday. That's what you are going to just harvest. You'll be harvesting once.
And also considering that it's a perishable
Yes.
good. You find you give your worker to go and sell, and they're calling you and saying maybe so much crates have been
So
destroyed.
tomato, what is involved per hectare?
So first of all, with tomato, you need to have a big heart. What I mean by
that one
having
is
a big heart,
it's a very stubborn
there are a
crop.
lot of things like this.
Yes.
Today is like that, tomorrow. So you need to have a big heart when you're growing tomato, and also know that it's not a business of today. It's a business of today and tomorrow. So you need to establish for a longer period of time. And then the other thing about tomato growing is that we've got different varieties that also grow at different seasons. We've got a variety that will do very well in winter. We've got a variety that will do very well in summer. You need to understand that.
That's why I show that Simona and Newton 1 is the best. You can see that I'm a farmer.
Yes, I can see.
I'm coming in. You know?
Yes, I see that. But there are all these varieties around, but we need actually to understand that certain varieties will do very well at a given time, certain varieties don't do very well at a given time. And then apart from that, it's also important to also know also the shelf life of the crop that you are growing, the tomato that you are growing. The shelf life is basically the period at which, the time that you are harvesting your tomato, how long is it going to stay in storage before it starts getting to rot? You need to understand that. Usually most of these are hybrid varieties. They range between 10 and 14 days. So the 10 to 14 days, it means that you harvest your tomatoes, you keep it in your boxes, you're able to keep it for this particular period, 10 to 14 days. But then again, apart from just knowing the 10 to 14 days, it also goes with certain varieties. Some varieties will start cracking the moment you put it in there, especially during rain season. Certain varieties, by the time you're getting it there, it will start cracking. A few days later, you've lost everything. So it's important to know, to get varieties which you don't crack. They are there. So we'll talk about that. Then apart from that, when you're growing tomatoes, it's also important that you have got a right source of water, because there will be tomato will not grow very well where you have shortages of water. So at some point you have some water, and at some point you don't have water, because it keeps on taking nutrients and water into the system. And for it to grow very well, because it's a high consuming crop in terms of nutrients and the like, so you need to make sure that you've got sufficient moisture to support the movement of nutrients and water within the plant. And then apart from that, you need also to understand that the winter crop of tomato is going to cost less than the rain season crop. The rain season crop, because of tomato does not want water to be on its leaves. There are certain farmers that have used sprinkler irrigation system on tomato. It's a wrong system altogether. You get several diseases. Your input cost will go on top of the roof, and you'll be wondering, I'm going tomato but I'm not getting anywhere. So those diseases usually come because water is getting onto the leaves. So you have to make sure that the rain season crop of tomato, you have enough chemicals to use, and you also ensure that you have got a program of spraying that will make sure that it's very consistent, having the right doses and the right products all together at the right time. So we also need to understand all those dynamics as you are growing your tomatoes. And apart from that, when you are growing tomatoes, there are certain fertilizers that need to be applied at a certain time, and certain fertilizers need to be applied at a certain time. When your tomato is growing, it has got some certain windows where certain products are a must. So the first stage is where you establish your first fertilizers to establish the root system of your tomato. Then the second stage is where the vegetative growth, like I was explaining previously on soybeans, the vegetative growth. If you take care of your tomato very well and it grows vegetatively very well at a certain stage, it means that you are ensuring that you are going to have a better harvest in the next month to come. And then the other point that you need also to know, apart from the vegetative stage, is the flowering stage. The flowering stage is very critical. As we are getting into the cold weather now, the colder it becomes, the lesser it is for plants to absorb the nutrients. So there are certain products that you need to apply when it's very, very cold to just enhance the uptake of those nutrients and uptake of even the water itself when it's very, very cold. So you need also to understand that. And then apart from that, you also need to understand that at the flowering stage, some tomatoes will actually drop a lot of flowers because of the temperature changes. You know, when it's very cold, when you get temperatures that are in the minus, I mean from 10 degrees getting downwards, 8 degrees, 7 degrees Celsius, you find that most of the tomatoes start dropping flowers. And when they drop flowers, you need to get a booster, fruit and flower, to actually have something that is going to encourage more flowers to come to your tomatoes. If you don't use that particular product, you find that your yield again is just reduced just at flowering stage. So again, there's still products that you need to apply, also to ensure that even the cold, when you apply these particular products, they also help to maintain the warmth on the plant. I think I want also to make it very simple. There are those farmers that have got streams and rivers in the areas.
Have a stream.
You have a stream, yes. Very good. So go very early in the morning. When you get there, you'll be seeing that more or less like a vapor coming out. Yes. The water is a bit warmer, so you can actually use that particular. You water early in the morning when it's very cold, but you see that the water is a bit warmer. So you use that water and water your tomatoes. So that way, when you put your water on the ground, the tomato will feel the moisture. So it actually regulates the temperatures around the plant. That's also a very good system. If you don't have these other artificial products that you can actually use there. Then from there, there's a fruiting stage. So in fruiting stage, again, we have certain times that certain tomatoes start cracking, I mentioned earlier on. When you put too much water at that particular time, there's certain times that tomato will get too much water, and then all of a sudden, you reduce the amount of water to apply. So today, you are putting 2 liters of water, for example. The next day, you put 1 liter of water. So what is going to happen is that the tomato will get used to the 2 liters, for example. When it comes to 1 liter, it will feel like that you have given it less water. So what will happen is that the root system of the tomato will try to go down, go deeper down to find the water. And when it's doing that, there's expansion and contraction that takes place. And when you've got the fruit, you see the fruit will start cracking, which is caused by the expansion and contraction because there's less water in the ground. So there must be, sustained moisture on the ground where you're growing tomato. There should not be a time where you don't have sufficient moisture on the ground. That is suicide.
Yes, but so
this is where most loss is actually made, just from those particular things. And this is where these are falling under GAPs. I mean the GAP, good agricultural practices. So when the good agricultural practices are not followed, some of those things, a farmer will be losing out. And then the process after now there's the ripening stage where you are harvesting your tomatoes. So you have to make sure that you harvest your tomatoes at a given time. Sometimes you'd say, I'll be harvesting Monday and Thursday, twice in a week. You can actually do that. But I think what is also more critical is that the harvesting period also varies with the variety that you're growing. The majority of the hybrid varieties, for example, at Sidco, I'll be back to talk about Sidco because that's where I learned.
The text message. At Camnet, we are very liberal.
Oh, is that?
There's one of my followers on Facebook. I just sit and say, tell the man is saying a lot of good things.
Interesting. Thank you so much. So we've got these varieties, and what is key is that, for example, if I talk about Tomato Alhambra, which can be grown in the cold season, like the season that we're getting into. So Tomato Alhambra will do very well this particular period. Now, we're talking about the harvest period for this variety. First of all, from the time that you're putting a seedling into the ground to the time that you start harvesting, it only takes about 74 days 2 months, 2 weeks, you start harvesting. The other type of varieties, you start harvesting at 3 months. Sometimes 90 days, sometimes 100 days. That's when you start harvesting. That is a topic for another day. But I think for now, I wanted to say that with this variety I'm talking about, 2 months, 2 weeks, you start harvesting. And from the time of harvesting, you'll be doing weekly harvests or twice, bi-weekly. You cannot be actually harvesting twice in a week, maybe on Monday, on Friday. These days have to be you need to be very sure to say on this particular day is a day of harvesting. So you can actually, let me just simplify it this way. If you are harvesting once a week, it means you're going to have 4 harvests in 1 month. So now you're going to have consistently about 5 months of continuous harvest.
5 months.
5 months of continuous harvest under good management. So, Doc, let's put it this way. You've grown 1 hectare of tomato. In 1 hectare of tomato, of course, the input cost can go up to about 150, 200,000. This time around, even 300,000. But don't worry about the 300,000, 200,000, because even 1,000 plants.
Because I know when we are talking about hectare for tomato, it's a lot.
It's huge. It's
very
big.
Me, I think a 50 by 50. Yes. But I was overwhelmed with tomato.
Yes, that's very true.
I was overwhelmed. Yes,
that's very true. So when I'm talking about a hectare, which is very easy for us to explain, in a hectare of tomatoes, you'll be harvesting on average 500 boxes per week. Now, 500 boxes per week times, let's say the price is at the lowest range of maybe 50 kwacha. But on average, let's say for example, on average,
that's
around
50 kwacha
per box.
Yes.
A box which is weighing between 18 to 20
And that
kg.
is when the market has been
flooded with a lot.
Yes.
So let's just put on average price, because I mean we're talking about 5 months minimum. It can go up to 6 months of continuous harvest. So at 5 months, if you are harvesting 500 boxes times 100 kwacha a box, 100 kwacha a box times 500 boxes. That is per week.
Wow.
50,000 kwacha per week as the income that comes to you as a grower.
How much do you get? 50,000 kwacha.
50,000 kwacha per week, and then you're talking about 4 weeks. So it means in a month you are having an income of 200,000 kwacha. This is where you just grow it at your farm and take it to the Lusaka Soweto market. You can easily go and sell from there. Of course, there are several other things that we can talk about at a different time. But for now, we are just talking about you harvesting 500 boxes, taking them to Soweto market, and you make 50,000. This is cash. This is not in Congole where you say, no, I'm selling my shoes, I'm selling my shirt, and I wait for payment for 2 months.
Going to follow you.
No. And by the way, I mean, one farmer in Livingston, I want to mention this. He was actually depositing a lot of money into his account. He was working. He actually was working for the council, and there was the bank was seeing a lot of money, and then eventually the AC anti-corruption commission, ACC, and the other people, drug enforcement commission side saying no, this guy is doing is doing drugs. I think we need to follow him up. So they tried to follow him up, and they said, okay, can we see you? And they went to his farm. I mean in Damba Central in Livingston. Just at the backyard of his farm, he just grew about 4,000 plants of tomatoes. But then 4,000 plants of tomatoes, by the time of harvest, I think he was just harvesting from 3,000 plants, to be specific. So from those 3,000 plants, the price of a box of tomato in Livingston at the time, about 2 years ago, it was going at 300 kwacha a box.
Wow.
300 kwacha a box. So from 3,000 plants that he had, he was harvesting about 100 boxes every week. 100 boxes every week times 300 kwacha. This man was getting 30,000 kwacha per week. 120,000 kwacha in a month. His salary was far much. I don't even want to mention it on the screen, but he was working for the council, so we know. The state month they were not getting their salaries and all those things.
And this gentleman was
this man was just putting a 30 pin, sometimes 35,000.
And this is how it worked. He was doing it at the back of
the backyard of his house. That's why he was getting that kind of money. And now the interesting thing is that what he did, he told them to say, okay, come to my place, and he made sure that they were marketeers. Actually, the marketeers were actually coming to buy from his house. He was not even taking to the market. The marketeers were actually coming to his house.
Okay.
So a lot of marketeers on that particular day, they came and were just saying, sit there and let's watch a movie. And the movie was Now the marketeers exchanging their money and getting the boxes of tomatoes, they're cashing in. That very day, it made 28,000 kwacha cash within 2 hours. And these men were just watching like this. The next day,
they started farming.
The next day, we started can you come in? Can we talk? Teaching me about how to grow tomatoes.
So in simple mathematics, 1 hectare, you are going to spend 200,000 somewhere there. But in a week, under good management, you'll be getting 200,000 kwacha.
And of course, the total income, maybe just as a blanket.
In a week, you'll be getting 50,000.
50,000 kwacha in a week. In a month, 200,000. And then when we say 5 months of continuous harvest, 1 meter, 1 million.
Range you're
packing up. But it takes a lot of time. I said a big heart, a lot of time of suffering here and there, and eventually you get a meter there, 1 million.
And my advice is you start maybe with a 50 by 50 or 20 by 20.
Lima.
So that you are able to not, because there's tutor.
There's a lot of spider mite control, all those things. But I think just for the purposes of this particular interview, I would mention to say there's serious potential in tomato growing. Get the right people on the ground, grow it very well. Get that agronomist, or I would say agronomist or your mentor.
No, I'm coming to get you.
So you get that person, be at the farm, sit down with them and say, guys, this is my field and this is what I want to do. Then they'll guide you step-by-step process, and the next thing you'll be seeing is, tracks and tracks.
No wonder I've seen successful tomato farmers, they do drip irrigation.
Yes, they do drip irrigation.
Because of what you have said, that no sprinkler.
No sprinkler. They do drip irrigation system. They don't use sprinkler.
And they'll never allow you to go to their what, because you are spreading tooth.
Of course, sometimes certain farmers, when they walk from this farm to the other farm, they are spreading tuta. Tuta is deadly. Tuta can actually wipe out 100% of your field within 3 days or 4 days. It's very deadly. Next time we're going to do a workshop, and we're going to talk about tuta absoluta, the life cycle, because we need to understand our enemy for us to get the right product.
Ladies and gentlemen, I know Pastor Chua is not going to refuse. Under Camnet TV, we are going to invite our brother, and we are going to have a total package, maybe 1 or 2 days, where we are going to break down crops and discuss these issues. I think we need to be doing this to our fellows, because when I read on Facebook, we spend so much time on very lousy information. Just here, you have motivated me to go back to my farm.
Oh, is that so? Thank you.
And you know what I'm thinking? Just get a farm. There's land here, traditional in Chongwe, somewhere what. You just go and build your house there in the morning if you're working, but you are living there. Your children are there. You are checking, the same way in the residential areas we keep dogs. You ask, has this dog eaten? Why is this dog looking this? Maybe we wash it. You are taking care of an animal. But if you have goats or what, and they are just roaming, your workers are workers. They have no emotional attachment. They're not moving money. So in the morning, they all have overslept. There's no water that has been applied.
That's very true.
You give them fertilizer, you are fertilizing other farms instead of, because how are you going to go and ask tomato? They don't want the fertilizer.
Speaking of supervision, this would be a very good opportunity for those retiring, because they'll be there at the farm 24/7, supervising their workers, making sure that everything goes accordingly. I think more people should be encouraged. Once you retire, go to a piece of land, start farming. And so, in fact, start farming as you are still working, so that when you are done, you already know what to do.
That's very true. And it's very interesting. So this is a very good business. We just talked about tomatoes, and then in terms of numbers, maybe some people would want to pick some numbers here and there. Plant population for tomatoes in a hectare, you can go between 15,000 to 20,000 plants for you to achieve the 500 boxes per week. Even if you go to 200 boxes per week, under very good management, you still make your money. So this is basically the number of plants per hectare. Then apart from that, you get between 5,000 to 8,000 boxes in a hectare, the same hectare we're talking about. Those are the number of boxes. Even if you get 4,000 boxes times 100 kwacha, that still give you some good amount, 400,000. They're about double what you invested in. So these are the numbers. And apart from that, the other important thing that you need to do is that just monitor your cost, especially on the fertilizer side. You need to know that, okay, now the prices are like this. But the good thing is that I think every farmer needs to know that tomato is an ingredient that is required by our mothers. every day there's a tomato. So there will always be business for tomato at any given time.
It's also an instrument where our wives call us back home. Where are you? We need tomato.
Yes. That's a nice
and you are
one.
going to find the jankuku by Easter fry, but we check cooking on. It's not good and see they are just waiting for what?
Tomato.
To make soup.
To make soup. Director, give us some messages. We are now opening our lines. First, let's read the messages, then we can pick your calls. I'm an emerging farmer who has been growing maize for quite some time, but now switched to growing soybeans. What varieties would you recommend for northern part of the country, in particular, Muchinga province, Chief Kavinga Kanchivia?
Okay.
Yeah. Next one. How much does someone need to pay to have their soil tested, or is there any cheaper way of testing the soils? I'm in Chama. Where can I do the testing from? I grow cabbage and I've already identified from what some plants are doing. My soil lacks calcium. What can I do to improve calcium?
Good.
So the other colleague is asking where can they do soil testing
and how much?
Which variety, and how much and which variety in northern province?
Okay, so first of all, I'll begin with someone from the one from northern province who was talking about which variety they can grow. So there are two varieties that he can go for. There's Pike and also Safari. So these varieties, when we're talking about Safari, it can easily do very well in almost every area in the country, Safari variety. And then apart from that, Spike will require a substantial amount of rainfall. So where it is, Spike will do quite very well without having a problem because there's sufficient moisture. But when someone is in the places where you get some dry spells here and there, Safari will do quite well there. And then apart from that, the second question was where someone can do the soil testing.
Yeah, I think Chama is Eastern Province.
Yeah, Chama Eastern Province. Let him go to the nearest agriculture officer. They will advise him. So you have these government institutions where they do the soil testing. Or alternatively, you can still get in touch with me or even you people. You can always we can always get their contact and give him the right place where he can do the soil testing.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have opened the phone lines. You can call us on the numbers that are below the screen. You can take part, call us. When you call us, give us your name, where you're calling from, and your question. And
there was also a price issue. He asked how much
the soil testing,
can it cost?
It varies according to the institutions, maybe 300 kwacha, 200 kwacha, 500, 600. So it depends. And it also depends on what they're testing for. There's where you test your pH, your acidity level in the soil. There's where you test all the major nutrients, nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. And then also you test even what is called the cation exchange, which actually enables the movement of nutrients within the soil. That is also measured. So it also depends on that. Then you'll be guided. Say, okay, for this particular spectrum, you need to pay so much. And then they'll give you the factors and combination will come.
In science in school.
Yes.
Yes, I did some testing.
Okay.
And I used to do agriculture science, so I understand that's at that rudimentary level what is involved in farming.
That's very true.
This is actually a broad topic. We actually haven't even discussed on value chain, and looking at time, it would have been good if we split these topics. Yes. Agribusiness and value chain.
I know.
Because now we're talking about tomatoes, and there are issues of wastage, when we're talking about perishable goods.
Yes.
Then there are also issues of supply chain.
Yes. So what it is here, just to summarize, this particular topic. So, when a farmer is growing tomatoes, for example, 90% of our farmers are just growing tomatoes and take it to the kitchen.
We have our first, that's what you thought, we have our first caller. Yes, your name and where you're calling from, sir? Your name and where you're calling from? From Kaoma? Yes.
Yes, I want to ask about the tomato.
And Shamu, who's it?
found the program that when you're talking about the numbers, yes, I want to find out about how many plants which you can plant in a hectare.
For which crop?
Tomato.
How many plants can you plant in a hectare?
Okay.
Tomato, right?
Yes, tomato.
Oh yeah, I mentioned to say for tomato you need between 15,000 to 20,000 plants a hectare.
Okay. What about Lima?
What about it?
Lima.
Elima.
Oh, Elima. So Elima is 50 by 50, which is about
Yes.
2,500 square meters. So basically that's a quarter of 20,000. So a quarter of 20,000 is basically about about 5,000 plants.
And it will overwhelm you, yes.
Definitely, it will overwhelm you.
Yes.
So it's about 5,000 plants.
Okay.
Sure.
Thank you very much.
Ritumesha. Mbuvo. Okay. So I was actually talking about the dynamics of agriculture and value addition and the stuff. So what we are saying is 90% of our growers for tomato, they only take to Soweto market. And majority of them, certain times they lose out because they've also grown a variety that will start rotting 2 days later. You know, within 24 hours, that variety starts rotting and they end up losing out. So we actually need to start thinking about value addition, where that tomato now can be turned into tomato paste. There's 10 times where you are just in the village, you can actually get that tomato and sun dry it.
Or
You sun dry your tomatoes so that you avoid the losses. I mean, I'm just talking about the village level. But then you can do sun drying of your tomato so that you can preserve it to be used later on.
there's also this one where they put it in jars.
We have a caller.
Fresh
Your name and
tomatoes.
where you calling from?
Hello.
Hello.
Good evening, Mr.
Good evening.
Yes, very program. I just want to find out who is this Mr. MWENDA?
Yes, please.
Yes.
Yes, how good tomatoes. The plants are very beautiful. And I don't know where are they other than the seed from.
Okay.
Did I get that? I didn't see.
So he says the seeds, the plants are expensive. So
The
I
hybrid
can-
tomatoes.
Yes. And you know, me being an economist, I can even tell you that you can be growing not tomato but seeds. Not you know, I come and buy seeds from you.
Okay.
The dry ones. Then they germinate. Then I start selling them. So because
As seedlings.
Seedlings, yes,
Yes.
because he's saying the seedlings are expensive.
Okay.
Because as farmers, we just want to go and buy the seedlings. They are expensive. So where can you find cheap? Which ones are the? Where can I buy? Where can you buy the seedlings?
Of course, they are different. What we call the young plant raisers. They are, of course, in different parts of the country. So you can actually go to these young plant raisers. But of course, a tomato seedling is expensive. Most of them they go up to 2 kwacha a plant.
Yes.
Sometimes 1 kwacha 8 tengwe, 1 kwacha 9 tengwe. For hybrid varieties, some of them will go up to 1.5, things like that. But I think one key thing about tomato growing is that you can actually buy the seed yourself, but because you know these are hybrid crops, when you put it in the ground, just mere ground, you find that the germination percentage will be very low. So the standard germination percentage, when you have grown it in a greenhouse, like in a seedling tray, and having all the recommended, like in an environment, a right environment, you get between 90% to 95% germination. Sometimes even 80% germination. This is in a greenhouse. Now imagine you are getting that seed and put it on the ground, so you get about 30 to 40% of germination. If you had 1,000 plants, that will cost you about 1,000 kwacha. A seed packet which is having 1,000 seeds costs about 1,000 kwacha with the retail that you get on the shops, in the agro shops. So imagine you have bought a seed at 1,000 kwacha, you come and germinate it, and you propagate it by germination, and when you put it in the ground, you only get, out of 100%, you only get 30% to 40%. So out of 1,000, you only get 400 plants. So it means you've made a loss. So it's very important to understand this journey, that when you are starting to grow tomatoes, you can start with your hybrids, start with 1,000 plants, where you'll be getting maybe 10 to 15 boxes a week from 1,000 plants, under very good management with good mentorship and everything. You'll be getting about 10 to 15 boxes. And thereafter, when you get good money from there, that's when now you can now start thinking of even growing your own seedlings at some point. By then you'd have learned the whole process. Otherwise, just getting into it and start getting these seeds from, starting to germinate your own seeds on the ground on tomato is a very high risk business. So you're better off getting the plants that you are seeing from a young plant raiser. You get it from the nurseries, you buy the seedlings that you are seeing. You can even start with 10. You can start with 20, 100 plants, things like that, and then you go on and move on.
Hello, you are through to Economic Briefcase. Your name and where you're calling from?
This is from Taiwan.
Yes, sir.
Yes, I'm following the program and I'm going to transfer the panel for the company specialty health. I'm really motivated with that one day I talked about. The 7 breakdowns I'm sure I was following. But when you calculate it, if you compare it, the rather job we do, I'm sure that is the lifestyle for investment, maybe lifestyle based on for that one. So I think I'll be waiting my job so that I start the farming and become a millionaire.
Yes, that's very true.
Yeah, thank you very much for the program.
You are most welcome. So maybe just briefly, just to give more information. I'll talk about watermelon. Of course, I know time is not there, but we just give some brief information. Yeah. In terms of watermelon, it's very interesting. We've seen a lot of watermelons when you're going to Kawe, yes. John, somewhere there. You see a lot of them. But the thing is that the grower is making good money. In a hectare of watermelon, you have about 8 to 10,000 plants of watermelon that you put into the ground. By the way, one plant of watermelon, just one plant, it has got several vines where it gives you, a lot of watermelon that's coming from one particular plant, from the very vines. If, for example, from one plant, the standard potential that you're able to get from one plant is actually a minimum of 5 to 6 fruits from one particular plant. 5 to 6 fruits, and we've got 10,000 plants in 1 hectare. So I don't want to start giving BP to some people. They'll start wondering, oh, what, and getting so excited. But I think what is key there is that I just want to lower it down. Even if you planted just 1,000 plants of watermelon, one plant giving you 5 fruits, and I want to reduce it to probably maybe 60% below that, you get only 2 fruits per plant. This is very possible, watermelon. Yes. 2 big watermelons from one plant. You planted 1,000. It will be 2 times 1,000 plants. You can get 20,000. Of course, we know that at the end of the day, you may not get 100%, yes. But because I had already reduced it, yes. So we are simply saying you can easily get 20,000 watermelons just from that particular field of 1,000. And now, with watermelon, of course, Mr. Tomato has got one particular watermelon variety called watermelon keto, which is ready. It is ready after 70 days from planting. You throw in your seed in the ground. 70 days later, you get these nice watermelons, sweet and red. Now, let's go to the market. When you get to the market, we'll talk about costing and other things later, but for now, get a blanket figure. We get to the market and we find that one watermelon, go to Solezi, one watermelon will go up to 50 kwacha just for one. This is a retail, a farmer is just selling at retail, 50 kwacha one watermelon. We get down to Osaka at the same time that you see a watermelon going at 70 kwacha. Sometimes it comes down maybe to about 50 kwacha, to about 30 kwacha, or even 20 kwacha. But for today's discussion, let's just put your watermelon at only 10 kwacha each. The lowest price you can sell your watermelons. You know that watermelon, they go beyond that.
Yeah, you can't buy in watermelon.
No, I tell you what, you can't.
You know what much we buy in those?
They cut it.
They cut it, yes.
They cut it in the middle.
15, 18 quarts.
Yes, that's the one that they've cut.
Yes.
Now we're talking about 10 kwacha for one watermelon. I'm just giving this example. 10 kwacha one watermelon, and you've got 20,000. That's 200,000 already. Yeah. And by the way, the input cost for watermelon is very low. You don't apply a lot of fertilizers. You don't apply a lot of chemicals. Everything is at minimum. We are there to guide, so these farmers can enjoy watermelon growing. The best time to grow watermelon, just immediately after July, when the temperature is warming up. That's the best time. So by August, if you can put in your seed in the ground for watermelon, 70 days later, you'll be at the market. So very interesting.
July, August.
September. Yes. You start harvesting your watermelons. This is very easy money. People in this country and across Zambia, let them get into watermelon planting. They'll never regret. It's a very good crop with less management.
And we have companies making watermelon juice in Zambia.
Yes. We have a lot.
We have restaurants that
sell smoothies.
Smoothies and all that. They are there. This is the greatest opportunity that we have. Actually, in the 21st century, if someone has not gotten into agriculture, because there's a big potential out there where people can make this money just like that within a short period of time. Right now, I've been talking about onion. There was a lot of issue about onion.
Yes.
You know, government has banned the importation of onion from different countries. What has it created? It has created an opportunity in the country
to grow
onions.
We have another caller. Your name, sir, and madam, and where are you calling from? Hello?
Bueno.
Bueno. Yes.
Topic ileta kuinomania family Camnet mukirize inaweza maproject ya pili especially pali tomato na onioni ukandisima tomato kama Zambia yongeka ku market ku Soweto kuzeni kitala tomato za kutoka Afrika kwenye market yetu ya tabii ya Zambia wajitala mta tomato outside from Zambia. Why? Then two, watu na kwa plus labda mababa wakalima yote product deep for this agriculture. So farmer anagona ndama zamushi na zaona mababa zambili wanataka kuchanga kuchota any equipment. So I think ni kama wapoti studio kama mwisho kanini kwa mapapa yameka baba mimi no kiko contact mshenja kwa itoa bill ina drama ni basi tuna mndama baba ni information mshemushi utopeleke ya kapi ikiwa ketinye drama kama kati claudio wanapenda drama ni Briefcase baya. So mudote ndio kwanza kwa ndani si kuna rural areas wapa asikwenda contact wewe kapao za fani za busy ipaka tamaniza kujingoyo sababu ya short busy yote mapamba ziwakulisa baba kwa wapani tangu nikapata ugono lazima na wapani wako tomato wao na Soweto lakini nao wanaanza kuita na tomato kuita kitu kama chetu wasi njaki amapeso za Zambia watu ya connect kinasafiri kwamba wanataka amapeso za Zambia. Let's talk to that way.
What's the summary?
So, two issues. What should we do so that tomato stop going to waste? And that importation issue. Maybe government should move in. Okay. Then the other one, how should we aggregate soybeans from the rural people to make sure that at least even the farmer benefits?
All right. Okay. So
value addition now.
Yes, it's issue of value addition. The other thing that is there is that you know, the agribusiness that we talk about, it's a very complex business. That's why I was talking about getting knowledge. Because you see, when we're talking about rural farmers, what is key with them is for them is to come together. They form cooperatives. or they work in groups, because when you are working alone as a small-scale farmer, it means your quality and quantity, they're not enough. First of all, the quality is not very good because you're just doing your own things. And second, you're not going to achieve the quality that is required on the market. So it means that if you don't have the quality, the right quality, it means that even you take your produce to the market, you sell at a very low price. And this is the reason why the issue of briefcase buyers come in, because they will tell you to say, this product is not very good, I can easily buy it at so much. Then they get it from you and they go and sell at a different price somewhere else. So the key there is that they need to come together and then approach different organizations who can provide all the necessary technical information. And of course, apart from that, those same organizations can even guide them on the right markets. I'll give a very practical example in terms of market. There are different markets. For example, if this small-scale farmer is in the village, almost every other village where a farmer is, there's a school, there's a Ministry of Health, there are clinics all over there. The first market are the employees that work there. This is a very practical example I'm giving. Employees that work around those institutions, this is the first market. The second market is the same area where they're operating from, because there's always a market in every place that they can still go there. Then apart from that, they still also have market. They are not also like denied, they are not denied to actually go to other markets that are outside their town. They can only do that when they aggregate themselves there. It's a good number, then they'll say, okay, out of 20 of us, we've managed to produce so much quantity. I'll give an example of this one where, a commercial farmer in Western Province, I think in Isioma somewhere there, I was very surprised on the newspaper, Daily Mail newspaper, I think, if I remember very well. I saw heaps of onions planted, heaps of onions in the storage room, and I saw a truck coming all the way from Kasumbalesa, the DRC border. Yes. Kasumbalesa trucks, the buyers were coming from Kasumbalesa to come through Lusaka and going all the way to Western Province in Sioma to go and buy the onion from that farmer in that particular area. This farmer actually came from some other place, somewhere else, not within Zambia, outside Zambia, to come and establish farming within the same area that the farmers have been around there for years and years and generations and generations. They have never seen an opportunity. But then because he had the finances and the muscle to grow the crop, they're able to supply to these other markets. Now, the farmers can actually come together in a village and start growing these particular crops. When they produce the quantity and the quality, this is when they can attract buyers from anywhere in the country. They're not actually stopped from getting anywhere. So, any buyers from anywhere. But because they always work in isolation, they always find themselves moving in circles and they don't move very far away. And the other thing that is there is that they always plant also even at impulse. We just say, oh, my neighbor has planted watermelon. I think if it's actually chab. And then the next thing I know, watermelon is not doing. Then again, the issue of today you start tomato, the next day watermelon, the other day butternut, the other day you are growing different crops. Then it means that even your the focus is divided, and then you're not going to really make a meaningful business in just a product where you are putting resources there. Again, quality and quantity will be affected. So sometimes start with one crop, go in with watermelon, make money from there. Switch on to tomato, make money from tomato, switch on to other, but you must be known for one thing. And then you can be growing these other ones as support crops, and then you can move on.
Director, do you have any messages? Good evening. I'm encouraged with the program. What specific crops can one grow in New Kasama area? Area between Leopard Zoo and Ring Road. Patricia, very nice.
Very nice. Very specific about the area.
I've been looking for that. They have black soil there.
Okay.
Black soil. It's a very nice, nice area. Yes, if you work in Lusaka, like Patricia, I'm sure she stays there. It's but the market is readily available. Yes. You can never be, you can never go wrong. So what can she grow there?
First of all, the first thing that I want to tell Patricia is that she's surrounded by very good markets. We've got a lot of people that have got shawarmas around the Kablonga area and all these areas near Nukasama. We've got a lot of chain stores around here. So one of the crops that she can grow, looking at the place where she is, the first crop I would mention is sweet pepper. red and yellow pepper. Very good business. The prices are always on the higher side. These are niche products. See, it's very difficult for you to go with your red and yellow pepper and you go to the open market like Soweto. There it will be like you are playing a different ball game altogether. So when we've got a sweet pepper, red and yellow pepper, the target markets is around area, the peri-urban areas where you are able to take your sweet peppers to a restaurant. They are able to give you instant money. And you see, with sweet peppers, one plant can give you between 4 to 5 kgs. And you have very nice, you know the peppers themselves. You've got very nice, peppers that you get, which have got very good lobes. Red and yellow pepper, you put them together. In these chain stores, just the 3 of them, this time around, they're going at 40 kwacha.
Yes.
Just 3 of them, they'll say per kg about 40 kwacha.
I just wondered, I don't normally buy.
What's the shelf life for?
Well, the shelf life
pepper?
Maybe about 7 days thereabout.
That's
Yeah,
not
you
bad.
can get the shelf life about 7 days. But it's also a very niche product. I mean, this is where you can actually get very good money. And you don't need even to plant like 15, 20,000. No. You just plant in a small area, 20 by 30, 20 by 20 in the area where she is. And from there, she just contacts this. There's actually a Nigerian restaurant around near Crossroad there.
Yes.
That person used to pester me almost every week. Where can I get red and yellow pepper? One, I've got a restaurant and I've got to be putting my red and yellow pepper in the products that person was making at the restaurant. So that's one of the products that she can grow. Then apart from that, she can also grow butternut. It's an interesting breakfast, butternut,
yes.
the pumpkin family.
Yes.
That one is also like watermelon. We're talking about numbers. Interesting product altogether. With butternut, again, it's a niche product. She doesn't need to grow a very, very big area. Just a small area, she can easily supply the nearby areas.
Derek, I think I cut you short.
Microgreens, these mint, parsley,
The herbs. Interesting.
Those
And,
are also
Yes, those are very interesting products as well. And for your own information, at Sidco we have different types of herbs, so they can actually come and get some.
Okay.
So the thing that is there is that we've got different business houses that are actually looking for mint and all these things. Yes, they're there. And this is a very niche product as well. You can easily grow it. Within 2 months or so, you start harvesting your produce, and the markets are all over. So they are quite massive. The business is quite open. For now, this is the best time that everyone else must be involved in agriculture, and they'll never go wrong.
Director, do we have any messages? I think I cut you short. I was very excited about New Kasama area.
It seems there are
No message. That's
no
what I
messages.
wanted to say.
Okay. Yes.
So
we have this looming oil shortage around the world. We see in Indonesia has put a blanket ban on all
cooking oil?
crude
Yes.
palm oil,
Yes.
which cooking oil is one
course.
of the byproducts.
Yes.
And we have the major producers like Ukraine and Russia at war. Then
Yes.
we have Brazil experiencing a drought this side.
Yes.
And Morocco, imagine.
Yes.
Even Morocco,
Morocco,
so
yes.
it has a drought. So
Yeah.
yes.
It's
So,
very true.
What would be your advice? So how can we prepare for this crisis?
So what it is that crisis means opportunity somewhere.
Exactly.
So what that means there is that very soon we'll be seeing the cost of cooking oil going very high in terms of pricing. And what that means is that if a grower now, for example, this season when the season starts, they can go in with their soybeans, because they can also extract oil from soybeans. I think we've seen soya cooking oil, and then apart from that, sunflower. There's the sunflower cake where they can start extracting the oil. So these are the crops that we can start growing, because very soon, very, very soon, this is the warning, I'm talking like a pastor.
Very soon.
We'll be seeing a lot of shortages on cooking oil as a product. So as a byproduct from these raw crops. So what we are going to see very soon is that, I'm sure, I think even today in the morning I was listening to some information that in Europe they have started rationing the cooking oil in the shops.
You can only buy one.
You can only buy one because they can't give you more because there's a shortage. So what that means is that we are in a global village. everything that affects this other one will also affect the other one. So very soon we'll also be affected around here, and we'll be seeing the cooking oil that we are buying at 200 now going to 400, going to 500. So it's important for us to prepare ourselves, especially come this rain season. Most farmers should grow these oil crops.
So should we ban the export of these oil producing?
Initially, we can actually advise our government to be very careful. I mean, start watching what the market is, what's happening on the market, because eventually you start seeing, the amount of these products on the market being like maybe rationed at some point, or maybe they would say it's not available. You find that when you go to just a normal supermarket where you used to find this cooking oil, you used to find maybe 5 products of different kinds of cooking oil. You only find one type, and that one type within a short time again it will run out.
And some people will be holding the stock to wait for the price to go up.
So this is the right time that we can start thinking broadly and start ensuring that we start preparing ourselves for that particular time, because that time is coming.
Mr. Nyapao, as we wind up, your last sentiments.
My last sentiments is that when you're getting into farming, make sure that you consult experts and do your due diligence. And I believe farming is a future.
Mr. Mwenda, your last remarks.
Thank you so much, viewers, and I think you enjoyed everything. But I think, to be given this short time, it's a very short time because we needed to go into a lot of details.
Also, very soon we'll get to we haven't even finished.
There's so much to talk about that we haven't touched on.
So the word is that there's potential in just the vegetables that we have talked about. There's potential in watermelon, butternut, rape, cabbage, tomato. There's just a huge opportunity for everyone to get into. But like Mr. Nyapao was saying, contact the experts, get to know the right knowledge, and eventually go in with passion, and eventually you'll be a farmer generation to generation.
My last remarks, ladies and gentlemen, let's be productive. We have the water, the soil, and all we need is to apply our energy. I promise you that we are going to get him back here, not after 1 week, but not more than after 1 month. I think we need to come and discuss this. We're going to see if we can hold some form of masterclass under the Camnet TV, family. You were watching Economic Briefcase. I was your host, or I'm your host, Lubinda Bazoka, co-host Noah Nyapao. Our guest today was, an agronomist, also an employee of Sitco. Thank you very much for Sitco for allowing you to come and have a chat with us. I think I've been motivated. I'm going to engage in farming. I'm going back to the land.
Thank you.
And in the recent week, Sitco was named one of the best emerging companies in Africa by Financial Times.
Oh, that's very true.
It's doing very well.
And General Manager Sitco, we are coming to ask you to help us sponsor this program.
Yeah.
It's we need to engage and help our citizens to be able to feed themselves. Our guest today was with ERICK MWENDA, an agronomist, and I think, ladies and gentlemen, you have greatly enjoyed. We are not charging any money. We are a charitable television station. I think you have enjoyed this particular episode. See you next week, same time, different topic. Bye-bye. Continue watching Camnet TV, because Camnet TV is not just another channel.